It's going to be a little bit about the job position I had at Homing Tears. This is absolutely crucial to my biological father. This is going to be about King Cooper and my biological father merging together to be friends. I wanted to say this because I don't know how much of this is being caught. You have no idea that this is very unearthed. Please look at the investigation to whoever these names were, who these people were. One of these black guys that I'm going to be talking about, I saw him in Washington, D.C., and it was the craziest thing. I think he could have been like a detective. He could have been. I think he was, or like an undercover. And I talked about this guy. He came by me and asked me for some money when I was in Washington, D.C., and there was a bunch of raccoons walking, and like families of them walking up trees and poles, and I was sleeping homeless on the sidewalk. And all these people walking by me every day, and there's one of these guys comes over to me and goes, "Hey man, you got a quarter? You got $1 a quarter?" And it was the same guy fucking Saul at fucking Home Interiors, same fucking guy. It was a crazy shit. I couldn't even believe, of all places, I seen this guy. This is a guy I remember fucking. I didn't like this guy at all, but when I saw him, he seemed kind of real snoopy. But it was him. I was like, what the fuck? And he looked at me like he knew who I fucking was. But anyway, the story's about Home Interiors. This story. Please understand. I get to Home Interiors. I worked there for about 1 to 2 weeks. When I got hired there, it was after I got fired from Cellstar. And you work 5 days a week. You work at Home Interiors. It's the size of like 4 football fields in a warehouse. No AC. It is like a factory warehouse. It's like Amazon or some shit. I get to this warehouse. I get hired 12 hours a day. I believe we paid $8 an hour at the time. $8 an hour. It was $12. $8 an hour, 12-hour shifts from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 p.m. But I worked there the night shift, if I remember correctly. I worked there from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. When I get there, brutal fucking work. It was brutal. Sold a lot of candles, artifacts. I talked about this before. They have a lot of stuff that you buy for Home Interiors. Pictures, paintings, stuff for kitchens, stuff, decorative stuff, a lot of candles, frames, all that kind of stuff for Home Interiors. I just call it Home Interiors. After I worked there, I probably had at least 10 people tell me about that place and what a nightmare it was. Everybody told me, it was like, man, you went to Home Interiors? Like, these people would honor me, like, throw trophies at me, and, like, salute me and shake my hand. You worked at Home Interiors? Like it was a fucking Auschwitz, or not Auschwitz. It was like a fucking Holocaust camp, slave camp. Like, yo, you survived there. Let me shake your hand, man. And people would always like, oh, man, you worked there? Yeah, it was bad there. Like, everybody, the managers, the supervisors, it was slave work there. I mean, it was. The people they even hired there, they would discriminate and get like immigrants that didn't even know how to speak English to scum them like shit. Anyway, I worked there, driving a Plymouth Laser, and this is some of the things that happened to me. This is when my nose started bleeding as well. And I get there, and I remember working, and when I was working, I kid you not, I want to say they knew about my mother. They told me when I was working, there was a 65-year-old woman. She was like 60 years old. And she worked like across from me, like a couple cubby pallet areas down. Like, what it looked like I'll draw a map of it. But they had a woman that was like 60 years old, and someone had told me, because there was 2 managers. There was a black guy, and it looked like he was the same black guy that was holding records over at Jonas's house that was all bald. Then there was another guy, there was a female, Cambodian female, And this Cambodian female was like Cambodian, skinny. She looked pretty in shape. You could tell she looked like came from a very strict Cambodian workaholic family, because that's how they are, very workaholics. And they were very strict when we got there. And when I was working, I worked in one aisle, and they transferred me over down to an aisle a couple of days later. And when I did, they said, "Oh yeah, we need you over there. You come over there." So they just shuffled my body over there. And there's a lot of people, and there's probably something like 8 people into a conveying metal machine belts that pushes all these boxes down and then rolls them back upstairs to then pick up some other items. And then they have these boxes that roll in a conveying belt, not a belt, but these little rollers, and they're feeding rollers. And it moves down, and you pick up a job ticket. You see what packages and items you need to get. You look for the items in each pallet area where they're sitting on pallets. But everything around you looks like a cage. It looks like a prison, because you're in this sort of caged area, and you have to run up and down these aisles, and you get these items and you put them in the box, and you get on to the next item. You pick out which items that you can put in there, and then you throw the box down the line for other orders of that box that needs to be filled. Meaning other candles that I don't have in my area that somebody else has, but it's moving down the line this way. And there's so many boxes. It's so fast, so crazy. It's wild. But there's a woman I talk about, and this woman's like 60 years old, and she's having to work really fast and hard. And I think to myself, like, this is a slave camp. We're gonna fucking die here. And I remember just thinking, like, this is a really fucking bad place. And I remember that she was like a Mexican old lady, she looked like my mother. And I saw this lady down, and I remember somebody, I don't know who it was. It was a couple of workers. They came over to me, and we were having a conversation because they could see how I was kind of desperate. I looked like a lost puppy trying to talk to somebody. And she told me, "Yeah, you know that lady? You see that old lady right there? That she's been working here for like 10 years. She has like 7 kids." I'm not kidding. This is what they said, because that's the related information they're talking about my mother. So somebody was either investigating me or trying to figure out what was going on. And I thought, she has 7 kids and she's working here? I was like, damn, she'd been working here for like 10 years is what I was told. And she was like 60 years old. She was like, yeah, she already has like 6 kids. So anyway, and I'm just thinking this is a hellhole. I'm like, there's no way you can work a 65-year-old like that in a place like this with 10 kids. And this lady looked very poor. She looked like a village lady. She looked very much like she came from a place like my mother did. And she seemed a little lost, a little bit. But I was 19, I was very young, and I was going to break, and this is after a couple of days working there. I remember I saw this guy in Washington, D.C. This guy kept on asking me for money. And you don't understand how the way I'm dressed is fucking poor. I am dirt fucking poor. I'm so runchy. You ever seen somebody that doesn't know how to dress, that's really skinny and puny, that they just put on clothes just to put on clothes, not because of anything. They'll put like fucking dress shoes with like swimming shorts and a fucking like a Christmas sweater, like fuck everything up, their looks. That's what it looked like, okay? That's what I look like. I had these sleeves and shirt. I'm working, didn't have good tennis shoes, and I recall speaking to some of these people, and when I spoke to them, sorry, they're making me pass gas. When I had to go I went to break or something like that, and I'd always go to my car. Every time after a break, I had to get some peace. I could not put my mind together how depressed and sad my life was, and brutal it was. They're thinking that I had to like train for a fight, for like a boxing match or some shit, like when I was 18. This is Right after, this is a few months after 18, when my body deteriorated and they had me mauled apart. I talked about Michael coming over to my house, calling me a bitch, and started walking in my apartment, and then Rich Murphy kind of punking me out. And knew I was in a desperate situation and liked having me as his little puppy dog. And then Anthony came over. Anthony was very kind to me, though. Anthony was very kind. He was very respected and felt bad. Because Anthony, he may be rich now, very intelligent, and all GQ looking, but he grew up poor. So he didn't. There was times he didn't get nothing for Christmas or hardly anything. He grew up poor with very little things in his life, and so he knows the struggle is. He, without a doubt, when he was very young. So, and seeing other kids have nice things, and you could just tell by the way he was raised, the way I known him. He grew up from. He had some poor and pretty poor shit in his life, and. Anyway, so I'm working there, and after about 3 days to 4 days, I finally built the courage to ask, and I'm going to work somewhere else. And every time I go to my break, I go to my car for 15 minutes, and just like, and a couple of times I went out and I go to lunch, never sit in the cafeteria, I haven't eaten my sandwich in my car. And a couple of times I get there after work or even during break and I just feel like crying. My eyes get watery because I'm so desperate. Like, I don't know what to do. And my nose starts bleeding. Not in one of these occasions. It wasn't when I was crying or anything. But I got a little emotional. But other than that, just a couple of times got emotional. But I go to my car and it was, my nose started bleeding. And it was in the middle of summer. And it wouldn't stop bleeding, and I have to go to and I try to hide it because I didn't want these people to know, because I have to be healthy and work, because if you don't look healthy and you don't look like you can work, they'll fire your ass here, and I need this money when I'm living on the streets. I don't know what to do. I need to be able to gather myself. I could suffer for a little while and then I'll eventually move to something else. So anyway, I'm mauling through this. I finally, on the third day, fourth day, it was, I think maybe after a week, it was about after a week, because I didn't work there longer than 3 weeks, but I worked there for about a week or two. But I'm going to say in the safe zone of 2 weeks, I think I worked there. And after about a week, I'm working, I asked to transfer to somewhere else. I'm like, do you have something else I can do? Because I see some of these other people have some nice jobs, and I'm like, and it was just brutal, and I said, can I work somewhere? And I don't know, I have a plastic anemia, so I just know my body's very weak, and they can tell by looking at my face that I look very pale. They look like I'm sick, like a drug addict. And you don't know how tired I am. Like, I want to conserve something to my body, something to focus. Like, I can't, let me just be in an environment where I can just think to myself. You can think nothing here, but work like a mule. And they transferred me over to, I don't know, it's like 20 yards, right around the corner of the break room. The break room is right in the center of the entire warehouse. And I go over right around the corner, on the other side of the break room. They have me picking up candles. These candles each weigh anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds, all of them. One box does. It's exactly the same size of this. All right, you can see this? Like the same size. And it has another bit of candles in there, and it weighs about 10 pounds. 7 to 15 pounds. Some of them are a little bigger boxes, but most of them are all like that. A little bit bigger than that, I would say. Exactly like that, but maybe, I would say a little bit thicker, maybe an inch or two higher. They weigh about at least 10 pounds a piece, as average, a little more, a little less. 10 pounds every box. We have to place them on a pallet, and each row has something like 12 to 15 boxes in a single pallet. We have to get one box from one pallet they bring us and transfer this box and move it over to this box. And this is what we're doing. And I'm telling you, I had to do this for 12 hours for 3 days, and I injured my back so bad I could not put one foot in the other. By the time woke up in the morning. By the time I injured my back. I felt like crying, and I was like in my car. I could barely move my fucking back. The next morning, I could not put one foot. I thought I was paralyzed. There's no way in God I could have not injured my spinal cord. I'm telling you, I was trying to tough this out. I could not move my legs. My legs, I tried to move like one foot in front of the other. And I'm trying to fucking tough. Remember, I boxed a little bit and lifted weights. I was like, I can't. Like the lower back of this hurt so bad that the nerves felt like it had crunched, like between your sockets of your spinal cord were just crunching on fucking nerves. Like I couldn't, like I was trying to move and I was like, holy shit. And I remember, that moment you feel like the doctor tells you have cancer, you feel a lump. Or the moment that a doctor tells me I was going to die and I have cancer, it was that moment like that. And I my back, and I was like, I can't move. Like I had trouble moving one leg to put it in front of the other because it hurt. The nerve was like, it felt like paraplegic. Like I was in so much pain I couldn't move the legs. And so anyway, we're doing this for 12 hours a day, and I'm like, there's two guys. This is the two guys that I want to talk about. You can track them down. There's another guy I want you to track down. One guy was a president, said he was retiring within a few months. He's probably not alive anymore. This guy would look like he was already about 60 years old. When I saw him, he looked just like Ken Cooper, white, blonde-haired guy, and I talked about that this guy looked at me like the worst scum you could ever imagine. Not too many people that had that wealth that looked at me like this. And he looks at me, and he was taunting me. This guy was looking at me like, you're an enemy, Taliban motherfucker. Like, this is what this guy, how he was behaving and talking. And he looking at me, and he waits until I look at him, and he's, I'm going to get this little puppy motherfucker. And he looks at me and goes, and he gives me looks like this. I've never had a conversation with this motherfucker. I don't even know who this fucking this douchebag is. So what happens is, there's another Mexican guy, real tiny, short Mexican guy with bloodshot red eyes. He has like a walkie-talkie. The reason I find out that this guy is a president is the guy that I'm working with, I want to say, you could track him down. I don't know if he's alive anymore, but he was like 30 years old. And this guy, I think he said his name was Richard. Anyway, this is how they're contaminating everything. And I worked there with him. And he goes, yeah, it's because of us. So you see all this production there? And this guy seems to be training me. Everything seems to be related about my dad being gay, who's going to take over the house, who's going to take over his money, who's responsible for doing all the work, all these different things that this guy seems to be bringing up. He knows a lot about my personal life. This Mexican guy, he's Mexican. He looked a little bit like this guy I saw at the Taylor Park. And when he approaches me, he didn't seem all that respected at all either. But he could, when I'm looking at him, at this point I'm looking at him like, come on, like we're Mexican. Like, like that desperate moment, like, somebody in Auschwitz was like, you see like you can't rely on white people anymore. You have to focus on race, the La Raza, because they're not going to help you. They're not. You just know this by instinct, 100% instinct. Anyway, they're shooting my finger right now. But anyway, and this guy begins saying, he goes, yeah, it's because of all of us. And he's putting stickers on there. And we have to build these pallets almost as tall as me. I'm 5'11", 5'10" and a half barefoot, 5'11" with shoes. Almost to my height, the pallets have to be stacked up. And there's like, I'm going to say maybe, was it 24 to a layer or 12? I think it was probably 12 to 16. It was 12 to 16, I think, to a pallet. And you have to scoot them all in. And I'm doing this so often on my back that I'm doing, the whole time I'm like this. I'm doing this. And I'm like working, and all I'm thinking about is I gotta train this way. This is how I'm getting at my physical fitness. But you don't understand about my plastic anemia. You don't understand the bitterness and angry about my father dying, everyone stealing the house, Michael Rossiter, what he had done, the drugs, the abuse, Chris Martinez, fuck you, I'm cool, I got a better car, house than you. These things that people had done used me, what that built up to, what that felt like. And I was young. I'm watching old people die all the time. I don't want to use my youth. If I waste my youth on the old, I want to be honored by not losing my youth. And it didn't happen. I lost it anyway. But when this is happening, is this guy then tells me, he goes, and this is what he's like talking to me, and he's putting the stickers on the pads, and he goes, that guy right there? And I'm just sitting there like this. And he helps me for a little while, but he's putting stickers on there, and we're just like this, and we're just moving constantly. And he's putting the stickers on there. I'm going to put the stickers on there, you just throw them on there. And he's putting the stickers on there, the labels, whatever. And while he's talking to me, he goes, hey, that guy right there? That guy who's been in prison before. That Mexican guy right there? He looked exactly like my biological father. And I watch how he engages. And he starts to look me up. He goes, yeah, my name's Richard. Keep in mind how they're looking at me and sizing this up. And these two, this Mexican guy and this guy who looks like Ken Cooper, white guy's like this and he does this like he doesn't care about this 19-year-old young guy has a potential future. He's all spit, motherfucker. Like, how you just want somebody to suffer, that you genuinely watch something suffer and you could imagine yourself or you experience that suffering and you enjoy the pain. And I like that pain. Like, that's what he was giving off. And I remember this short Mexican guy, I could tell because when I looked at him, I was kind of like, come on, man, I'm Mexican, don't do this to me, man. I need something to hold on to, man. I was doing this because how desperate I was. And, I'm nervous because this guy keeps asking me for money, and this is the guy in Washington, D.C. later, this is like 3 years ago. But this guy was driving a forklift, and this guy was, have you ever seen somebody try to hustle you for money and play victim, only go after predators? Like, have you ever seen a person in prison that is weaker and somebody that's real crafty on how to hustle somebody and fool them real quick? Oh man, I'm your friend, man. We're friends now, man. And this is what he would tell me. He'd go, oh hey, let's go, man. Hey, you got 75 cents? Oh man, I'll talk to you later, man. Hey, I don't even know this guy, but he talks to me like I'm his best friend. I've known this motherfucker. I don't even know this motherfucker's name. He tells me, he tells me after a couple sentences what his name is. But he talks to me like I'm his best friend. I've known this guy forever. Oh, let's go, man. How you doing, man? Hey, man, you got 75 cents, man. All right, man, I'll talk to you, man. All right, man. This guy's working my ass. This is a guy that goes and rapes kids in prisons. That's what I'm thinking. This guy, I wanted to kill this motherfucker. This guy need to kill. This is bad. And he kept on asking me, and I was getting pissed off. And I said, nah, man, and you don't understand the stress and anguish I'm going through. I'm at this point, I'm so being brutalized by so many people, and everything is being stripped and taken, and I'm feeling weak, injured my back, and I tell this guy, he goes, all right, man, I'm going to let you go home for the day. And this is a Mexican guy. And I go home, or I tell this guy, I went home early. I didn't go home for the day. I just left early, but I went to the office and I told this guy. He goes, yeah, he goes, all right, go talk to the staffing agent. I talked to a Mexican guy. He has kind of walk, his eyes seem bloodshot red, like he's pissed. So I go into the temp agents. They have a little office connected to the side of the break room. Pretty big break room, about half the size of a court, basketball court. And when I get into this office, I go to one of the cubicles, and there's probably like, I don't know, there's 5 cubicles. And I go to this little cubicle, and this is like the staffing agent. And I don't know what staffing agency I went to for this job, but I want to say it was over by Mervin's, where Mervin's used to be, or where my apartments, Green Tree Apartments. Anyway, but they have an on-site temp agent. And I go to this temp agent, and when I talked to him, he was a skinny white guy, real skinny, and he tells me, and he seems like this guy 100%. This guy looks like he got out of prison. This guy looked like he got out of prison. Someone felt sorry for him and put him and gave him an office job to work as a temp agent. And I couldn't believe that this motherfucker. I mean, he had a couple tattoos, but he had zero concern over my life. Like, this guy seemed like he was also working it to just get what he wanted. And he tells me, yeah, you know what? He goes, and I told him, I said, I feel like I injured my back really bad. And then he started to tell me, like, you know what? I think, he goes, and he started looking at me like, I think this is going to be a lawsuit. I think they were trying to see if I was going to try to get money out of it. So now the company immediately turns on me. You don't understand. This is a factory. Your body goes into a ditch, in a dumpster, and that's where it goes. You ain't worth nothing here, motherfucker. We got dump bodies all the time. This is the attitude environment that this place is, and how the staffing agency works, because that's what they do. Whenever I get there, get up and leave, and before he leaves, he goes, "Why don't you go ahead and put some vegetables in your back? Put them on your back, and maybe it'll help your vegetables. It'll help you feel better." And that's what he tells me, and so. And I'm in a desk area like this, and he's talking to me, right? He's like this. And he's like talking to me, and he's like, just put some vegetables. And he's kind of looking at me like he doesn't give a shit. And so I was like, all right, I have to leave. I have to leave. I'm going to go home early. My back hurts really bad. But you don't understand, I'm screaming inside. Like, I'm fucking in pain. But I'm like, and I'm not even I'm just trying to tough it out. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm starting not even moving my body like this to left or right because it hurts it hurts real bad. It hurts really fucking. I don't even want to move like this because I feel like the nerves are crunching down on the neurological part of my spine and my lower back spine. It feels like it's about to detach. I'm going paralyzed or some shit. And I was like, damn, I think I injured myself at that time. For sure, there's no coming out of this. Like, I don't think you can have this much pain and either not go to the hospital or not going to have permanent damage for the rest of your life. So anyway, as I get up and walk away, he does this. He does this. And he does this. And I'm thinking to myself, because when I walked into the room, I think he has a recording device, because I told the guy outside, the president, and I said, I injured myself. I said, I said injured, because once you tell somebody you injured yourself, they immediately, it's lawyer time. Fire his ass, get rid of him, because they do this with standard register. But they do this because everyone wants to file for workers' comp, all these other people want to file for all this other stupid shit, get free money, and many people do. But I'm hated really bad. They know I'm poor. They think I'm a poor trying to steal money. So before I walk to his desk, I hear him do this. Like he's hiding something. And I'm thinking that I'm talking to him. He has a recording device in his cabin. And I speak to him, and so whenever I'm walking away, he goes like that. So I go home. And I went to my car, I'm going to say, in 2 separate occasions. I don't know if there's cameras in there, but my nose starts bleeding bad, and I can't stop the blood. You don't understand, when I can't stop the blood, it seems to be running out like a faucet. Like, it's not stopping, it's not clotting. And I feel like I'm getting skinnier, and I'm like losing oil or blood in my body. That now, when you lose blood, you can lose good portions of it. No. I'm losing so much, I fucking feel like I'm pruning. I feel that my body has lost, like, has like 1 quart of a fucking oil in a fucking engine. And I have trouble breathing even more when I'm walking back to work. Okay? This is what happened. The bottom of my feet I'm standing on, they don't have cushion because there's no fluid. I'm standing on bones. Like, it hurts my body even more. I don't have cushion. It's like bones that I'm fucking putting my own weight on because my body doesn't have blood. And I'm thinking to myself, when I get off work, I mean, my bottoms of my feet hurt bad. Like, I'm like been forced to stand in a fucking position for 4 days straight. No sitting down for anything. My knees begin to hurt really bad. And I'm just thinking, like, you know, like, and I remember there was kind of an attractive girl, and then there was another girl that I was talking to, and they could tell that I was trying to gather up with some people to find some sort of closure to something with someone. She could have been from India. She kind of looked Middle Eastern a little bit. Mexican, Middle Eastern. I don't know if she said that she knew what Spanish was. She might have. But when I spoke to her, there was this other guy, and they were trying to see if I was gay. They were trying to take a look. But she was kind of pretty. She had some nice looking tits. Some breasts. And she's kind of thick. But you could tell she had no interest in it. She could tell that I was showing sexual interest. You know, you could tell when somebody gets some sort of sex eye look. And, you know, they want to try to at least make it to something. And she was zero interest. She had a couple tattoos. I think she could have had a neck tattoo. She had a tattoo on her arm, I think. But I recall being in that circumstances. Then there was some other kid that kind of guy tagged along. He's pretty skinny. And then this other skinny female. I don't know if that person was a transgender or not either. I don't think they were. But I was in a real bad situation. I was like, they could tell that I was like a puppy. Like, I want to talk to a human being. Like I need to have, I need to have some sort of communication because I was thrown to the wolves like fucking dumpster trash shit. I don't give a fuck. You know, you're gonna find out what military action shootout is. You know, this is what we do in the military. Like, it was fuck you. Like, and it was really bad. That was because you don't understand my state of mind and everything with not even wanting to apply for food stamps. They're like, I can work and all, you know, like, because they already declared me as an enemy. They already declared me as a persecutor, as that of against my father and mother. Everything that Kid and Sarah got to participate in and did, they listened to them. I was completely thrown out. My mother, I don't know if she shot herself. I don't know if somebody, you know, did ran over. I believe that there is something wrong with the whole story of her being ran over by a forklift. I don't think she did. I think someone either approached my mother, bashed her leg, shot her, she shot herself, or she threw herself in the front of a forklift, or threw herself in front of it. That's what I believe would happen. And when this situation happened, my mother, like I talked about, that when I was working there, they had an old woman that was 60 years old, and some guy said, yeah, she already has like 6 kids, and they got her working over there. They were talking about my mother, and they're looking at her. So they have no idea the extent, because I've already been declared as an enemy because the persuasion of other people's expressions toward me. Doesn't matter if you know evidence. A couple of them say that, trust Kim, trust Sarah, trust who else? Go after Hector, and that's what they did. But I'm going to say, look for this guy. His name is Richard, and this guy said, "You see that guy? You see that guy? Yeah, you've been in prison before." And he was pointing at the Mexican guy. This guy looked like my biological father. Do you remember when I talked about that they put me upstairs when I was working before I left until I got injured my back? They put me upstairs with this African guy. This guy was real skinny. Okay, let me tell you, when I say skinny, I don't think you understand what starvation skinny is. This guy was skinny like I was, but he had looked like he had a normal blood system working in him. I knew something was wrong. I knew this is when I started seeing colors and shit, like fucking hallucinogen colors, and I was like, what the fuck? I knew something was probably pretty serious, but all I'm thinking is about push forward. I'm not even thinking about anything because I'm just trying to survive. I feel like nobody gave a fuck about my worthless life. Nobody, and I was trying to be something. And got no food, leaving leftovers, and there's only maybe 2 other guys upstairs, and it gave me some sort of peace because there's not too many people. I can at least have some sort of function mental to myself, even though I have to work hard. It's still very busy. We have to work hard. And we're moving these boxes and shit. And this guy seems to be doing some of the work for me. And when this guy is running up and down the aisles, you know how he runs? Have you ever seen like the starving children in Africa like try to run, or like because they're very strong people, but even when they're skinny, this guy, he seemed to be thrown like he was like a bag of bones jumping, and he would curl in his feet like this inward, and he would run walking up and down like this, like running like bones like this, but you could see how he was running. He was like, you know, he was real skinny, but like an African skinny kid just like working. You ever seen an African skinny motherfucker? I mean, they were fucking busting ass hard work all fucking day like that. And I was really skinny. This is what I talk about, that this guy, he seemed to have some compassion in him, which he did, I believe, and it was just kind of like it was just kind of like, we can do this, come on. Work, come on, we work. And it's very simple. The state of mind of this type of work is very, everything is this. This is the type of African people that come from salami and warfare and civil war. They don't come, like, they don't show up like other people. Like you see a couple of them scattered in Africa. No. You ever seen those African people that only stick with their others in Zimbabwe and Nigeria and Kenya and Congo, and like they come from these places in civil wars. You see scars on them sometimes, and bloodshot red eyes, like genocide shit, and they tell you genocide stories. Talked to a lot of blood, shooting, death, murder stories he had to do in combat. Like some of them were in the military, or innocent people being killed. And this guy that I worked, real dark complected, almost kind of like purplish. And I remember he was wearing all brown, same outfits, wearing all brown, like a light brown shirt and some sort of light black shoes, tennis shoes, all black tennis shoes, and some khaki sort of. And he was walking, just working. He could tell that I was getting tired. He could tell by looking at me like, this guy's body's not fit. Like, his body isn't fit like mine. He was working. He didn't seem to have too much of a problem. You could tell some of these people and how they function because they only hang around and walk together. Something similar Mexican people do. You know how, have you ever seen African people from Zimbabwe in factory warehouses? They only hang around. They're only African other people. They don't talk to like Mexicans. They'll share a few words and that's it. Like, oh, hey, that's it. But and they're joking around with one another and shit. Like, they're laughing, but they're all black, African. They only hang around. They won't talk to whites. They're there for work. They're there for better. They don't care about anything else. And they know that they're being excluded. They're here to get riches here, which is fine. That's what it's here for, right? And but that's how they function. You can tell because you can see how they group up. And it's not grouping up like a gang hate. It's just like they just feel comfortable that way with each other. You can it's common. It's easy. It makes them feel home because they're away from. A lot of them have trouble speaking English, and they come from war-torn countries and they're black. And they can tell people look at them because they're so purple black. They're not just like black. They're like Nigerian purple black. And you can see their eyes, like when they look, like they've seen Auschwitz repeatedly done over there, like dumping bodies in ditches, like life has been thrown away so many times over there. They're so used to it, it's normal. And they come over here and they want to continue life. So anyway, I'm working with this guy, and he kind of looks at me, he's like, yeah, come on, we can work. And he's kind of looking at me like he knows that my body's weak. Like, I'm just, and I don't know if it's just like, I don't carry the black hood, extra black African kick in me or anything, because as we know, athlete pros, but he could tell when he was sort of walking down the aisles like I was weak. Like he knew, like, when you try and survive in a starvation situation and you see who survived because of genetics and power, he could tell I was going to be the one that was going to fall over. He could just die. But I recall every time I get in my car, I have to get a bottle of water with antifreeze just to make it one trip and put it in the radiator to make it home. That's how horrible that car was. There's no AC. But I wanted to make this video. There's a guy named Richard who starts to, I'm going to say his name was Richard. I'm even surprised I remember this part, his name, but he was sizing me up about everything that was going on. They had this lady's probably not alive anymore, but they got a lady that looked exactly like my mother. And I remember that. That was one of the reasons I didn't want to work there, because if you have a 65-year-old woman working there, that's what I was thinking. Forgive me, Lord. I don't mean to be cursing like this, but I was like, F you, I don't care. If you do that to her, you're gonna. What else are you gonna do? If you don't care about that, what are you gonna do to me? And I recall, I think I had to use a restroom. You don't understand. I get stuck in the assembly line so bad when I'm moving the boxes at this factory that they tie me when you go to the bathroom. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, and I remember, like, the Cambodian girl, like, they were very strict and they were looking. She was young too, kind of pretty. She looks a pretty girl, and she was writing down, like, okay, you're gonna go, okay. And like, they were keeping tabs very tight on everyone, like it was a slave camp. And anyway, I thought it was important for me to say this because I don't know how much of celebrities, the money that got involved and what they did to my mother, but I think it was important for me to share this because my biological father, that's probably the primary reason I wanted to make this video. You were targeted. You had no idea how Ken was already being represented and how they persecuted him, because this continued to stand a register, company after company after company, until guess who's the hero? Spick this motherfucker, shoot this motherfucker, do this. Lord, I don't mean to be cursing. I'm not trying to curse anymore at all. But it's very, if I would have done anything, it would have, that temporary fix would have lasted for 20 years. What information do you think would have been retrieved for Keno for 97 on the beat? What do you think would have been retrieved to all them, Kenneth, and they stay with their money, they stay with their comfort, they stay with, I played daddy over in Julian. I didn't do this, I didn't do, if I didn't just add little pebbles, imagine how much I would have been able to add to that table if I wasn't around. I really didn't exist. But at 20 years old, that all got cut off. So, as far as I have anything to say with this, that's what I have to say. I can't speak on behalf of my mother anymore at all. I will never be making decisions. I don't believe I ever will. If I'm not a part of her life in the last 20 years and I've seen her, her identical twin's going to scum me, and it's not her fault that I'm going to be blaming. It's not. You don't understand what the psychologist who's paying them, whatever is going on, whether it's the military, Marines, or whoever it is that are psychologists doing this isn't going to change the fact there's other things they can't control. But know that that's the intention to do bad to me. There's racism in military, there's racism in a lot of shit. So I just know that President Barack Obama showed up. They had no idea what I had done. Who got involved? Oprah Winfrey. I just saw her on the TV show. Yeah, cut him off. And she was looking at Julian's twin. Cut him off. We get rid of him. We're going to do this for the president or for black people. It's a big racist movement, and it's not racist, just racist. It's prejudiced in the whole situation. But there is the blessing that I made it to 40. and I can't do anything about it anymore. And the idea is that it is lost forever. I can't even express that. I haven't spoken to my mom in 20 years for one time in person. You know where your cage is. They know how to kill people. They know how to put them in death chambers. They know how to throw them. Oh, just different time. Oh, just, Gary Gwynn, when he approached me, do you want a retard bar? Because you're going to give a retard to people if we let you have sex with women. Oh, but I'm just fixing to being like a man like you. But hold on, Gary Gwynn. I'm as scared as a little punk motherfucker at the cancer. Oh, wait, Jesus Christ, like he showed up over at Barry, Vermont. Nobody knows about those stories either. Because remember who the retard bar is when he's walking down the street and shitting or pissing herself? I'll show you the real life blonde princess now, Miss Chili. Oh, hey, I was asking for help. Apparently, when the World Trade Center happened and my dad spoke to the president, my dad being a World War II veteran, first Hispanic in the United States, my mother being raped, Frankie being raped by 10 men. No, get a 3-bedroom house. No, stay safe right over there and slap my mother when my dad commits suit. Ken Cooper, you want a firearm to shoot yourself with? All this frustration I've said for so many years, and what did it bring me? It brought me about this much. It was only about this much that it brought me. But I'm nearly digging in trash cans at the age of 34 years old, 33 years old. So, y'all, it is the past. I cannot feel any better unless I have God in my life, like more and more God in my life. To know that God had a better purpose for me. To believe that God had a purpose for me that was bigger than my own. That was bigger and more important of the longevity of the purpose of my life, but not just a temporary fix of my youth. And that's the only way that I feel like I believe in God and much closer and obeying the commandments and listening to the way that Jesus would have wanted me to live and carry my life. Knowing that when everything gets taken away from me and I end up living back on the streets again, if that ever happens, if I'm forced to this time really dig in a trash can, then that's at that point, I don't think it'll ever happen, but it's not to say anything can happen. But then I'll have God embedded into my chest, in my mind, in the training and conditioning to just believe. I've been through those poor situations. I'm older now. I've been through cancer. I'm HIV positive. I've been treated very horribly for a very long time. I've been through things that takes me too long to talk about, but I understand that to keep God in faith. Maybe it'll be another year living on the streets, but I'm fine. But right now, I have my own apartment. I have faith. But it's good to believe in God while I still can, because this is probably more what God wanted me to live. Have a roof over my head, have a fan, have a light, to work on projects. These are the blessings that I believe God wanted. Maybe if I need to learn those lessons again, but not to lose belief and faith in God. Even when I'm smoking a cigarette out there in the streets, just to keep believing in God. And I still remember harmonizing, smoking a cigarette out in Denver, Colorado at an empty warehouse. I had nothing to do but look up at the stars and stuff in the sky at night. But I thought it was important for me to say something. And that's the way my life was. But I can't, because there's too many problems, too many things. And I did what I could for my mother, Frankie. Now it's just about what we can give to others. And it's always been like that, but there's not really much, a whole lot, sort of giving to myself and just giving to myself in better, different ways, Maybe in the beginning people give themselves money and their morals. My morals were really something I was giving to myself. Financially, I wasn't doing. To buy the nice things, that's what I need to do a little bit more. But I always believe that money is not something to be focused on. But it is something that we need to better others and better ourselves. But hopefully this makes some sense. But I think it's just important. I've been through too much crazy shit just to keep the spirituality of God, and that Jesus is watching and observing things that's going on in life. That's just what I got in life. I didn't get anything else. I didn't get these things because I didn't understand them that were bad. I didn't get these things because I was supposed to do something else in my life. I didn't get these things because of whatever. Well, then if I start getting these things, then that's what I'm going to start doing, because it's going to be bettering for the country, bettering for my family, bettering for others in a different way. I could help reach out and be more monumental. Well, then if that's not it, then that's it. But I just keep it in perspective. This is not my trophy.